Well, hello, Jolene.
Wow, hello, Nicole. Look at you in the closet.
In the closet. I am in the New York City husband's closet, which is where I do actually all my work. And when I set this up, it was pre-pandemic actually, and then the pandemic hit, and then this became my office. Every engineer is like, don't touch it. Don't move anything. And it's really unusual to have an interior closet in a New York City apartment.
Closet.
To have it quiet in New York City, no window, no nothing. So here we are. We wanted to talk about the pardons, the Trump pardons and the Biden pardons. Is that correct, Jolene?
Yes, that is correct.
Not to throw it on you, but I'm going to throw it on you.
Go ahead.
Why don't you start this off and start with your knee-jerk reactions to the Trump pardons? Do we want to start with Trump and go to Biden, or vice versa? It's your call.
It's funny that they're both related because, Biden in his last day in office, did the sweeping, anybody that was associated with January 6th and for like a preemptive pardoning because his fear was that Trump was going to go after all of them. And so he does this preemptive. I mean, this is actually after the whole Hunter Biden, his sister-in-law, his brother, that's a whole nother thing. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, then you have Trump who says, great, I'll do one better, and I'm just going to get everybody associated with J6. Done. Out of here. My knee-jerk reaction is that Biden overstepped his authority. Then we have to talk about what the authority of that pardoning power is for the president. I mean, is that something that we really need to take a look at and go, do you really have the ultimate authority and power to do something like that? Because you can, and no one needs to authorize it. Like, it's done. That's the final say. And then when Trump does that, I have a real problem, honestly, with the way that he did a blanket pardon of people that assaulted a police officer. It's almost like he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, because you can't take the stance on, Blue Lives Matter and all that. And then these were people that were assaulting police officers, and now you've forgiven them. And now there's two of them who have done it, who said, nope, I don't want your pardon. I don't accept it.
Who's
I'm going to stay here.
Who's the second one? I remember I heard about MAGA Grandma, but who is the second one?
There's another one who just did it yesterday. But one other thing I will say is that I also think some of them were unfairly prosecuted. It was an overreach on what the charges were, that I think the January 6th committee overstepped some of the convictions or the accusations. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's your knee-jerk reaction?
It's going to maybe be surprising, but I am in almost complete agreement with you.
I love it.
I do too. I've been thinking so much about this. I am very disappointed in the last year of Biden's presidency. I think he did some very good things in the first couple years. I think he's lost his way, and I think he got swept up in the adolescent behavior that has now become the norm in our political landscape. I want to backtrack a second, but seeing that horrible debate with Trump and Biden, where they came out as, quite frankly, two little old men. I know Trump doesn't want to, he's a little old man too. Compared to Biden at that point, not nearly as frail. But when Biden screamed, "You're a loser," I was like, we are done. Like, this is completely ludicrous. And I bring up that moment because it reminds me of the pardons. But I read an article, I want to say 2 years ago, about soccer, but in Europe. And they did this experiment, and I think it was in Britain. It could have been in Spain, I'll have to look it up again. But there's a lot of fighting and violence in the crowds of a soccer game, a European soccer game. And they did an experiment where they had tons of police, tons of security, and more fights broke out. And then when they took the security away, there wasn't any fighting. So I bring this up. I know, please bear with me and my crazy reasoning. When I look at the pardons and I understand some of the preemptive, Fauci, there are some serious threats that maybe Trump didn't, but his followers are, and we've already seen with some of the January 6th people, they take things too far. And so Biden probably had some real fear for some of his family members, I get it. That being said, when you start, I'm going to do, it's from this panicked, we have to protect myself. You're just poking the bear. And Trump was like, well, like you said, I can do one better. And so I'm looking at these two little old men who are like, you're a loser. No, you're a loser. I'm going to one up you. I'm going to one up you. And all of a sudden we're looking at these pardons and going, what the fuck, you guys? This is our country. What are you doing? And I am in 100% agreement with the January 6ers, the people that assaulted and that eventually killed. There were 5 police officers. I found their names. Several protesters that died. This was a horrible day. And those people that actually committed violence against other people and other cops should not be let out. If there was someone that was caught up in the excitement and walked in, maybe they shouldn't be still in jail. And what I thought I heard was that Trump had originally said it will be a case-by-case basis. Mm-hmm. And then Biden says, puts up his preemptive, I'm scared, this is what I'm going to do so you can't screw us, Trump. And Trump is just like, watch me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, everyone's free. And immediately, the guy that wore the horns, he's like, let's go buy some motherfucking guns. That was his first tweet. And you're like, huh.
My only hesitation with what you said, well, it's not a hesitation. When you talk about the amount of people that died, I think that right there is controversial because no one was ever accused of attempted murder because I don't think they attributed any of the deaths, with the exception of the Babbitt getting shot.
And Brian Sicknick, the first officer that was killed.
He actually died of a heart attack.
He died of a stroke.
Yeah.
But he was a young person.
I mean, that in itself is controversial.
Tell me more about that. Why you think that?
I think it was his mother or his wife who said, I mean, come on, he had the strokes after the protest. I mean, it's like a cause and effect. Would he have had the strokes had he not had to deal with the protesters and, threatening his life and feeling like he was, putting his life on the line to protect the Capitol? That was his job? Would that have happened had they not protest? I mean, so who's to say, right? Do you not feel like that?
I don't. These poor Capitol policemen who were completely outnumbered, who had been really proud to be Capitol policemen. And then there was this day they were completely outnumbered and they were doing their job. And as you said, this party is supposedly pro-police, was ready to hurt them, if not kill them. If a man is using a stun gun to the neck of an officer, that's to hurt him or kill him. I guess to me it feels like semantics almost when it's like, well, what killed them? Because it's like a thinking about like back before our time, if people were in battle and maybe they got shot or their arms were broken or whatever, and then they died a day later, like we're deciding, well, that's not what killed them. I would hope that we could acknowledge that it was a horrible day that we don't want to repeat.
100%. Yes. Completely agree. There are no positives that came out of that day. 100%.
But it seems like there's a ton of, people, they're just bowing down now. Like everyone's kissing the ring.
So I also think, though, if you take a look at some of the other stories that aren't just what we've heard in the mainstream media, and the reason that I think Biden pardoned the committee, number one, the January 6th Congressional Committee was made up. There were no Republicans, except for Adam Kinzinger and
Liz
your
Cheney.
friend Liz, that made up that committee, because the Republicans knew that it was going to be a one-sided argument. Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney were the only ones that were. And was Adam Kinzinger on the committee? I'm not sure.
Yes,
he was on
yes,
He was on.
the
Okay.
committee. They had a list of other proposed, like Jim Jordan, very far right people, and they said no, we don't want them on.
So
which was probably a mistake, right? Because it couldn't be taken seriously by the right.
Right. So at that point you go, well, that's probably, it wasn't a fair hearing. There were things that were probably missed or one-sided.
Did you watch any of it, Jolene?
I feel like I did. Again, my God, that was 4 years ago. I'm not sure.
Right.
I feel like I did.
Because, I was glued to it, but it seemed like most Republicans were not watching it for that exact reason.
That they knew it was going to be biased, yeah.
Or that they didn't feel represented. I don't think that they knew it was going to be biased. They didn't feel represented. They didn't feel, because there is a small group of right-wingers that have gotten a lot of power, and everyone seems to be quite afraid to go against them.
Expand on that.
It seemed that, Jim Jordan and Mike Johnson, and I'm blanking out on some of the guys' names, but there's a small group of, at the time, Senators Marjorie Taylor Greene, that would filibuster that everything was a no. Everything was a no. And the January 6th committee, first of all, they took too long. Part of the problem that we're here is that everything is taking too long. So it's really easy to start changing the narrative. People are too busy, too lazy, too tired, too stressed out. They don't have the attention span. Like if the January 6th committee, if they got a group of people and maybe even a couple of the right wingers on the committee so that it was a more balanced ideological committee, and they started immediately. And of course it takes time to get, evidence, but maybe it could have at least felt more fair. Mm-hmm. I know Pelosi was like, absolutely not. Those people are not on, which I could see your side and say, well, that doesn't seem quite balanced.
Yeah. So I think part of the arguments, though, are not all the footage was available for that committee to decipher. I am not justifying anything that happened. That was a horrible event. It shouldn't have happened. There was nothing right about that. So, don't think that I'm justifying it for a minute.
Are you in agreement with me about that those that caused violence to the police officers should not have been pardoned?
Absolutely. Yeah. I said that at the very top, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate
100%. Yep. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth and honor Blue Lives Matter and all of that and then say, but except for you guys.
Did you hear that clip where a reporter asked him, well, do you believe that it's okay to have violence against police officers? And he says, no. And then he says, well, then why did you pardon? And he was like, well, we don't know what they did, and we don't know what everyone does. And, you know, there are murderers. Like, people get murdered all the time and they don't get caught. And I'm like, whoa. So did you hear that one? That wasn't the best reenactment of that clip, by the way.
No, I think I did. If I did, I skim. That's the kind of shit that I skim over because I'm just like, oh, why do you say stuff like that?
Yeah.
And so I don't dive into that. That's
right.
Like one of those things that you go, ugh, why?
More than 400 of the people that you pardoned, though, assaulted officers. So I want to ask you about the Vice President, J.D. Vance. He said, this is a week ago, he said, if you committed violence on January 6th, obviously you should not be pardoned. Why is your Vice President wrong?
Well, only for one reason. They've served years in jail, and murderers don't even go to jail in this country.
Is there anything that surprised you about what I am saying?
Well, that you agreed that maybe they were overcharged, some of them?
I think some of them. These people that were these senators, the Congress people, they were terrified. And they were under an enormous amount of, they're in such trauma. And then they say, we need to hold everyone accountable. And then you would hear these stories of, I thought he was a cool guy and I came to DC and I got caught up in things and they were in the back. I'm just giving everyone the benefit of the doubt here. That not all 1,500 walked in there with a stun gun.
Right.
I think some did.
Right.
You had nooses hanging. You had Proud Boys. You had like a bunch of, as they say, bad actors.
Yep.
Bunch of bad dudes who had serious bad motivation. Then you had people that got caught up in the excitement, in the, I've never been to DC before. I've never seen the president. And if they're, let's say, it was an enormous crowd of people. They're in the back. They might not even see what's going on. And they got in. They might have got in and went, holy shit. What's happening in here? I'm just thinking of a whole human experience, right?
Yeah. No, and I actually know of someone in that instance. In fact, they didn't even know when they marched down to the Capitol from wherever they were prior to for the rally. She said, yeah, let's go march in front of the Capitol. Did that for a little while and then went back to her hotel room. Didn't know about the people breaking the windows and the violence and all that because she went back to her hotel room.
Of course.
And she was like, yeah, okay, we've done this. We've done our part.
Right.
And then she was like, oh, shit, we really missed out on
all
the action.
There is a known fact of mob mentality. Like you can get caught up in something and not always realize what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
you might go, oh my God, what is happening here? I don't want to be a part of this. And they get the same sentence that, so of course.
Yeah. Do you think that Nancy Pelosi had the authority and the ability to call in the National Guard and did not do it intentionally? She wanted this to escalate into something like this. And the reason I ask is that is one of the theories that is out there, is that she was told that there was going to be this huge event, that they were going to try, there was the impetus of getting Mike Pence to not, authorize validate the vote, ratify the vote. And that they knew there was the protest going on, and she was told, probably a good idea to not leave this in the hands of Capitol Police, and she refused. Do you believe that to be true?
Did she call the National Guard as it was happening, or did she call the National Guard before it started?
She did not call them before it started. And that's part of the argument, is that if she was truly concerned for this, why wouldn't she have called the National Guard in, knowing that the only protection given at that point were the Capitol Police?
I don't know. I mean, there had been no precedent. I don't think we ever in a million years thought that this would happen. My weird theory at the beginning of this about sometimes when you add security, when you present a threat, people get heightened and they get more aggressive.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the reasoning behind it. I don't know. But truly none of us could have ever, except for the people that stormed the Capitol, we're not reading what they're reading.
Let me ask you, give me one or two things that you would want a conservative or a Republican to follow.
I'm super excited about this because I have a couple, if that's okay. It was on WNYC this morning. There was a news report about how CNN, I think his name is Mark Thompson, he's the CEO, that there's a little bit of knee bending going on, or kissing the ring going on. And so a lot of the legacy media there's a lot of fear after this last week. And people don't want to push back. They don't want to question. And at the end of this article, or this news story, this man was like, there are some really fantastic independent news organizations. This is the positive coming out of all this crazy, is that everyone's reacting, right? Conservative, liberal, they're all reacting right now. There's so much fire throwing happening this week, and some things that are really going to hurt this country, some things that might help this country, but everyone's reacting. And he said the positive thing is that there are some independent news agencies being born because of this. And so I was super excited because you had talked about, you wanted to share, hey, let's share some resources for people that we can all investigate together, whether you're a liberal or a conservative, and we can talk about it.
Yeah.
And so that was super exciting. So the one as I've said so many times, Tangle News,
Tangle.
Tangle. The Instagram handle, I looked it up, is TANGLE.news. Tangle News, Isaac Saul and his team. Love you guys. You guys are amazing. They talk about the left. They do a news story. They talk about the left. They talk about the right. And then they talk about their own take. And it's so fantastic.
And he's on paternity leave right now.
I
And did you
know.
read that article of like, he had no intention of, he was like, I'm having a baby, and how his life has just absolutely been rocked.
Yes.
And he's like, nope, I'm checking out for a month.
I'm out.
I love it.
It's so fantastic. It's his first baby, first child. And he had a boy, and it's so sweet. And he now finally has a team after 5 years that he can trust and
love it.
And he can just enjoy this new chapter, which is really cool, right?
Yeah.
I
very
love
cool.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
So these are recommendations that I'm super excited to start looking at. One is called 404. Oh, this is the Instagram handle. There's also a website, but I'm just giving the Instagram handles. 404 Media Co, MEDIACO. And it is an independent news company that's based on the tech world, which I think right now is wildly important, considering all these tech moguls are bending the knee. And it's time to start really understanding, which I know nothing about, what's going on in that world in an independent lens. And the last one, and this was the man that was being interviewed, he has a newsletter called Status, and his handle on Instagram is get_status, GET_STATUS. And I think at this point it's a newsletter. I don't know much about it, but it's another independent news source for conservatives, liberals, for us all to check out and examine and question and talk about it.
Mine is the Free Press. I love the Free Press. I think they are fantastic. It is run by Barry Weiss, who she is brilliantly smart. I love everything that she does, but unbiased. And her wife, again, another one, they just had a baby. And her wife has come back from maternity leave and is great. So I think, and this is just me reading, I think Barry is probably more conservative and her wife is a little more liberal. And so the two of them, it's just, I think that's the dynamic. And I could be wrong.
Perfect. And she's a reporter?
Yes.
That's her background.
I think they're kind of a large organization. I say 20 people, or
Right.
like larger
Right.
than 20 people.
Right.
But I think they're pretty evenly divided because they did a poll like after the election of who voted for whom, and they were really evenly split. So that's another good thing.
Yes, I can't speak to the
Is-
last two that I suggested, but Tangle does the same thing. They have
Yeah.
a totally even team, which I think is great because then we
Yeah.
can just have like I'm part of their team. Sorry, Tangle.
We're
that we
honorary
can
members.
that we can have like honest, kind, considerate, thoughtful dialogue, which is what
Yeah.
we wanted to do, right?
Yep, totally. Okay, so here's the last one, though. I know
Oh,
this
boy.
is going to sound, it's going to be a little cray-cray for you.
I love Cray Cray. Go.
The three people that I love following on X, formerly known as Twitter, is Chuck Schumer, AOC, and Nancy Pelosi. And if you're a conservative and you're not following those people, how the hell do you know what they're saying? And so I would say
my
for
God.
liberals as well, do the
Jolene,
same thing.
I love you so much. I seriously do. I love you so much. I just do. You're such an open, I'm so grateful, honestly. Like, first of all, here's the thing. I never, ever saw Twitter, and I certainly don't look at X. I'm curious about something, and I'm willing to look at the other side.
Yes.
Have you heard of Blue Sky? I hear that it's a newer platform. It's like a Twitter or an X. It's independent. I know this is a bad word. It's woman owned.
That is not a bad word. I'm a woman-owned company.
I mean, listen, it's not a bad word to me. It's not a bad word to you, but this is a whole other conversation about the DEI rollbacks and all of that stuff.
yeah.
But maybe we can like look into Blue Sky as well, because what I'm a little concerned about, and I guess we should be looking at all of the things because they're in bed with the big man right now, is trying to find unbiased sources, and Blue Sky is supposedly totally independent. So you follow AOC, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi.
I do. I do. I think it only makes you stronger if you can validate your thoughts against theirs. Then, I mean, that makes your argument stronger. If you don't know what the hell the other side's saying, how can you formulate your own thoughts or go, aha, here's how I feel about that?
Right. And like I said, I don't watch Fox, but I'm gonna start.
Are you really?
Of course I am, because I have to understand what you're seeing. It's really important.
Can I tell you this though? I don't watch Fox and Friends in the morning. That's their morning show. For me, it goes until I don't know what time it starts, but it goes until 8. I love Bill Hemmer and Dana Perino. They come on at 8:00 Central Time.
Okay.
And so I usually only get to watch like 15 minutes or 20 minutes of them in the mornings, but I kind of get their headlines, which I love because they're news. I don't watch anything at night, all the Fox stuff at night, because again, I think it's really biased. It's entertainment. It's pundit. It's the political pundits. So I don't think that you're not getting news at that point.
I'm going to start with those recommendations for everyone and for you, because believe it or not, I don't follow left stuff. I followed AOC for a little bit and then I stopped. My nieces follow her just because, I mean, listen, I like her, and we discussed before, love her red lipstick. And I just love that she's outspoken and not afraid. And that's really appealing and exciting that someone's willing to have those balls like you felt about. So, but I don't have anyone super left for me to say, hey, Jolene, and you're already following them. So there you go.
I do like Dana Perino.
Yes, I wrote her down.
She would be one. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, she was Bush's press secretary, George Bush's.
Oh, thank you. I wouldn't know that because I didn't know those things.
I just love smart women.
I do too. We have that in common.
Yeah.
Right?
Would you rather go to the Super Bowl or to the World Series? Wow.
No, that's not true. Let me. That's actually not true. I would totally go to the Super Bowl, and I'd go for the halftime show. Because even in all my years of not watching the Super Bowl, I do usually watch the halftime show because they're usually great.
Yeah,
they're usually great. Prince was the best. He was the best.
Oh my gosh,
God, he was the best. I loved him so much. And I have to say, like, I didn't have any feelings about Justin Timberlake, and then I saw him play the Super Bowl, and he was so fun that Josh surprised me one birthday. I know this is crazy. He surprised me and took me to Berlin for the weekend.
Oh, God, I do remember that.
It was one of the best trips ever. And in this weekend, we saw Justin Timberlake. Neither of us are fans, but we had seen the Super Bowl and we were like, that looks like a fun show.
Yes.
And it was great. We had so much fun. And it's so much fun to go to a concert in a different country.
So my friend Jen went to go see Taylor Swift in Germany. In the same thing, like when there's a language barrier there, but you all speak Taylor Swift like
Absolutely.
that. It's
amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I'd seen her. Did you get to see her on tour?
No.
Are you a fan?
I'm not a fan, but I do like her.
The couple records that she had during the pandemic, and I just all of a sudden fell in love with her. I loved her as a writer. I loved her as a singer. I loved her. I was like, who is this? I mean, because I was too old when she first came out. It was sort of teeny boppery, like your kids would listen to it. But now I'm like, you are a force and you're interesting. And Josh listens and goes, sounds like she's just singing her diary. I'm like, yeah.
Right.
And it's great because you feel connected. You feel like you understand, like I've been through those things, and it's pretty cool. Okay.
She's brilliant. Would
you rather go on a morning walk with Rover, your dog, and...
Rover passed away, by the way. He did. I'm so sorry to tell you now. Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
Well, this took a turn.
Oh, God. Okay, but keep going with it. I'm with you.
When did that happen?
Oh gosh,
it must have been.
It
recent.
hasn't. Yeah, it hasn't been a year yet. But it was when we were still living in Arkansas. Oh my God, it was horrible. It was the hardest thing. He was so old, and it was time, and it was the most horrible thing Jeff and I have ever had to do. Yeah. Yeah, it's horrible. Okay, but go on, because I still love him, and we talk about him often.
And one of my favorite things is that one of your Dibble Dough is her snack company that we haven't talked about yet. But if you like a sweet, indulgent treat, go to your refrigerated section and any convenience store and most markets, and you will find my dear friend Jolene's Dibble Dough.
Oh my gosh, that sounded like a commercial right there. I love that.
Well, that's kind of what I do. But it's and you have all different flavors, and I'm really, really proud of you. But one of your snippets was you were walking Rover. Recently, you showed it to me, so I thought he was alive.
That was Callie's dog, Nola.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, but I'm with you. Okay, so you could say I was taking Nola. My would you rather I could be walking Nola.
Nola as in New Orleans?
Yes.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. You are going to take a walk with an alive dog in your life.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. With Rachel Maddow.
Oh, God.
Or Joy Reid.
Oh, God.
I'm getting a little better. Come on.
That's actually a good one. No, that's a good one.
Thank you, ma'am. Except for the dead dog part.
Except for the dead dog part.
You're taking a walk with an alive dog and one of these very brilliant, seriously left-leaning ladies.
I'm going with Rachel just because I feel like she's in better shape. So the walk is going to be better.
You don't want to ask her any questions?
Hell yes. I'd have to come up with questions. Because she's a strong woman who's a smart businesswoman, obviously. I mean, to get where she is. So, yeah, I'd have lots to talk to her about.
Well, that's all I got for you.
That's a good one. That was a good one.
Thank you.